Chapter 27 The Broken Robot. The Sharifs found their robot powered off, lying in a ditch by the road. Her left leg was crumpled beneath her torso, her right arm was twisted around a tree trunk, and her whole body was covered in new scrapes and dents. Together, the family heaved Roz onto the bed of the pickup truck where Oscar was waiting. The dog sniffed her broken body, and while the Sharifs climbed in beside him, Rambler turned around. The road was littered with debris from the storm, and the trucks had to drive slowly. As they bounced along, Jad pressed the button on the back of Roz's head. She powered up, and her garbled voice automatically said, "Hello, my name is Roz, Unit 7134, but you may call me Roz." Oscar licked the poor robot's face, and Jad leaned in close. "Roz, can you hear me? Are you okay?" "Hello, Jad. I have broken limbs and minor damage to my computer brain. My systems are now repairing themselves. Please stand by." The robot's eyes glowed, and they pulsed as her recovery program was doing its job. And before long, Roz sounded like her old self again. "My computer brain is now fully functioning." Jad wrapped his arms around the robot and sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Roz. It's my fault the tornado got you. Please don't be mad at me." Now Jaya was crying too. She pulled her brother and her dog and her robot into a big hug. Mr. Sharif wasn't much of a hugger, but he reached over and laid his hand on Roz's shoulder. They stayed like that for some time, quietly holding one another. The shock of the tornado was fresh, and it felt good to be together. Mr. Sharif apologized for leaving the farm. "Mr. Sharif, I apologize for leaving the farm without your permission," said the robot. The man smiled. "No need to apologize, Roz. I'm just glad you're alive." "How are the cows?" said Roz. "The farm is a mess, but the cows are fine," said Mr. Sharif. "We'll take you to the repair shop now, and you'll be with the herd again soon." Chapter 28 The Shop. It was a small, sleepy farm town. A few trucks glided down the streets, and a few humans sat on porches. A few stores lined the main square. Rambler parked in front of the bright white building. Then Mr. Sharif left the children with Roz and limped inside. "Welcome to Tech Lab Shop," said the woman in a white suit. "My name is Nadine. How can I help you?" Mr. Sharif was distracted by all the robots on display in the shop. They came in a dazzling variety of designs and colors and sizes. Standing still, eyes glowing, they calmly waited for someone to put them to work. When the man spotted a Razam unit, he suddenly remembered why he was there. I'm the owner of Hilltop Farm," he said, "and we were just hit by a tornado." "I heard the sirens," said Nadine. "Is everyone okay?" "My family is okay, but I've got a Razam unit who's in bad shape." The woman called over her shoulder, "Patch, bring the Razam repair kit." A robot marched into the room carrying a large case. It looked similar to a Razam robot, but his shoulders were wider and he was shorter. The word "Patch" was lightly etched on his torso. Mr. Sharif led Nadine and Patch out to the truck where the children were chatting with their robotic friend. Patch quickly scanned Roz's broken body and announced the cost of the repairs. The man stroked his chin, mulling over his options, until the children bursted out, "Just fix her!" Mr. Sharif nodded, and Patch sprang into action. With smooth, precise movements, the robot gently placed Roz on the ground. Then he grasped her arm and her broken leg and twisted. There was a "thip" sound as each limb popped loose, and he took new limbs from his case and "thip" popped them back into place. In a matter of seconds, Roz was whole and back on her feet. "Robots never cease to amaze me," said Mr. Sharif, admiring Roz's shiny new limbs. "The makers really outdid themselves with these Razam units," said Nadine. "However, you have our most basic unit. Would you like to upgrade her software or adjust her settings or polish out her scratches?" "Will that cost extra?" Nadine smiled. I'm afraid so." "The basic unit is fine," said Mr. Sharif, "but I need to order a work crew. Could you send one over to help fix my farm?" Not a problem, said Nadine. I'll send a crew over immediately. So, as we read that line, it said, would you like to upgrade her software, adjust her settings, or polish out a few scratches? As a listener, were you kind of like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't upgrade her? I know the first time I read this story and I read that, I was like, oh, thank God Mr. Sharif is cheap and he won't upgrade her because um, why don't you comment? Actually, I was going to say what I think, but why don't you comment what you think might happen if they were to upgrade Roz's software? Would she stay the same and just, update with new features, or would it completely wipe her to input the new? It's kind of something that you'd have to think about. What examples do you know about things upgrading? Do they get completely wiped or what? So comment in the comments and tell me what you think. Chapter 29, The Aftermath. Hilltop Farm was hardly recognizable. Buildings were flattened and equipment was missing. Debris was everywhere. The farm had no electricity and the computer system was down. As Roz picked her way through the ramble, she realized she was off the grid. It would be hours before Mr. Sharif could track her electronic signal again. Was this the moment to escape? No. Roz couldn't leave the Sharifs. Not like this. Instead, she did what she could to help. The tornado had left behind a winding trail of destruction. Thankfully, it hadn't destroyed everything. The barn was leaning to one side, but it was still standing. Roz forced the door open and found the cows nervously bunched together in the corner. You are all safe now, said Roz in her calmest voice. How is everyone feeling? The robot was answered by a chorus of moos. How do you think we feel? I'm a nervous wreck. My whole life flashed before my eyes. The robot raised her hands to quiet the crowd. I'm afraid the tornado destroyed much of the farm, including the milking parlor. The cows gasped. My udders are about to burst, cried Tess. Would you like me to milk you the old-fashioned way, said Roz. One look at the robotic's clumpy mechanical hands, and Tess shook her head. No thanks, she said. I can wait. An emergency crew is on the way, Roz said, but we cannot be in there while they're working. Please follow me. Roz carefully led the herd out through the wreckage and down to the pasture. Some of the fences were missing and the herding machines were broken, but the cows promised not to wander off, and they began grazing on the wind-blown grass. 3 massive trucks rumbled up the driveway, the doors swung open, and a crew of robot workers climbed out. The lead robot checked in with Roz as the others began unloading supplies from the truck. The crew got down to business. What do you think about a robot army coming to pick up the farm? What are your thoughts on that? Why don't you put that in the comments too? How would you feel if a robot army kind of jumped out at your house and started doing things? Power tools buzzed, debris was cleared, fences were mended, holes were dug, and machines were repaired or replaced. Beams and walls and roofs went up, and equipment and pipes and wires were installed. Clearly, these robots were designed to work as a team. The Sharifs wandered out back and stood with Roz. They watched as their farm was rebuilt right before their eyes. Several crew members marched over to the house, fixed a hole in the roof, and replaced the shattered windows. Finally, Rumble and tools were loaded back into the truck, and the robots fell in line. Are you satisfied with our work? Said the crew leader. I'm satisfied, said Roz. At these words, the robots climbed back into their truck and drove away. Hours after it had been devastated by a tornado, Hilltop Farm was better than ever. So, have you ever heard the metaphor, or maybe an idiom? I guess we could call it a metaphor, an idiom, a blessing in disguise. I think that the tornado was a blessing in disguise for the Sharifs. There were things that Roz could fix and that Roz could do on the farm, but to have an entire team of robots come and mend all the little pieces of the farm that maybe Roz wouldn't have done, I think was a really great thing for those Sharifs. So while the tornado was scary and it destroyed lots of things, getting that army of robots out there really ended up being a blessing for the Sharifs because now it's functioning, like the text said, better than ever. Chapter 30, The Gift. The children walked into the machine shed, past a row of parked farm machines, and found Roz tuning up the milk truck. We got you a gift, said Jad, smiling. The robot felt something like surprise when the boy handed her a wrapped box with silver paper and a big red bow on top. Can you guess what it is, said Jaya. Roz started guessing. A bucket? A rock? A hammer? A turtle? A can of. Okay, you can stop guessing, said Jaya. Don't forget to read the card, said Jad. Nestled under the bow was a little card. Roz opened it and read the words. They were written in Jad's messy handwriting. Dear Roz, thank you for taking such good care of our farm and our family. We spent all of our savings on this gift, so you better like it. Love, Jaya and Jad. P.S. Please tell us more stories about the robot on the island as soon as possible. Thank you for that nice card, said Roz, although the handwriting could have used some improvement. Jad rolled his eyes and said, Open your gift. The robot untied the bow and tore off the paper and lifted the lid of the box. Inside was a tool belt. It was made of dark leather and had a wide strap and different sized pockets for holding different kinds of tools. We thought you might like this to make your work a little easier, said Jaya. It's designed specifically for Roz and robots, said Jad, so it should fit you perfectly. The children helped Roz put on her new tool belt. Rather than going around the robot's waist like a normal belt, it was designed to go around her torso. Jad looped it over Roz's left shoulder and down on her right hip. Jaya laced the strap through the bucket and tightened it until the belt was snug and secure across her chest. Do you like it? Said Jaya. Kind of think it makes Roz look a little tough. I like it very much, said Roz. Thank you for this lovely gift. The children smiled and hugged the robot. They really seemed to care about her. Roz wondered if they would care enough to help her escape from the farm. One of these days, she would have to risk everything and tell them the truth. For now, however, she did the best thing. She led Jaya and Jad out to the old oak tree to tell them another story about the robot on the island.